Two people start waiting at exactly the same moment. On the left, a line moves forward every 30 seconds. On the right, one person stares at a loading bar frozen at 99% with no update and no sign that anything is happening. 10 minutes later, both waits end. The clock says they lasted exactly the same amount of time, but the motionless wait probably felt longer. Not because time slowed down, but because the mind had less evidence that the end was getting closer. Most of the day, we do not experience time as a number. We experience events. A walk has doors, corners, traffic lights, faces, and sounds. A conversation keeps changing. Even a dull task has a beginning, a middle, and some visible sign that progress is being made. An empty wait strips much of that away. Imagine a quiet room with one closed door. No one enters. No message appears. The light does not change. After a while, the only clear event is your next glance at the clock. That matters because attention is limited. When attention is occupied by a task, less of it is available to monitor time. But when nothing else demands attention, the passing of time becomes the task. Researchers often distinguish between two ways of judging duration. Sometimes we know an interval is happening and pay attention while it passes. At other times, we look back and estimate its length from the events we remember. Waiting usually belongs to the first kind. We know we are inside the interval and we want it to end. So we look at the clock, we look away. Then we wonder whether enough time has passed to look again. Each check creates another clear marker. Still waiting. Now picture the moving line. The person in front steps forward. A door opens. Your own position changes. You may still be far from the front, but the system gives you something new to track. The minutes have not changed. Your attention has. Instead of measuring only duration, the mind can measure progress. This is the first mechanism. Attention. A wait can feel longer when more of your attention is directed toward the fact that you are waiting. Return to the frozen screen. It might be processing your request. It might have lost its connection. It might have crashed completely. From the outside, those three situations can look exactly the same. Now, the question is no longer only, how long will this take? It becomes, is this working at all? That uncertainty adds a second burden. A moving line is slow, but visible movement proves that the system is alive. A motionless system forces you to imagine several possible futures at once. Maybe it will finish in 10 seconds. Maybe you should keep waiting. Maybe you should restart it. Maybe restarting will erase everything. The wait becomes a decision you must keep making without enough information. A train platform creates the same problem. A display that says 12 minutes may be annoying, but it gives you a usable future. You can sit down, buy a drink, or choose another route. A blank display gives you no map at all. The train could arrive in 2 minutes or 20. The uncertainty does not add actual minutes, but it adds unresolved questions. This is the second mechanism, predictability. We tolerate waiting more easily when we can form a believable picture of what happens next. Then expectation changes the experience again. Imagine an app that says about 2 minutes. For the first minute, the wait fits the promise. At 2 minutes, you prepare for the process to end. At 3 minutes, the experience changes. That extra minute is not just another minute. It is a minute beyond the schedule the system created in your mind. This is why a clearly announced 10-minute wait can sometimes feel more manageable than an unexplained 5-minute delay. The longer wait is still longer, but the shorter one can feel more frustrating because it violates the expectation you were given. With no movement, attention returns to the clock. With no information, uncertainty expands. With no reliable estimate, expectations become unstable. And here is the reveal. Visible progress does not mainly change time. It changes the evidence available to the mind. The moving line says the system is working. The status update says you have not been forgotten. The estimate says this is what you can reasonably expect next. Together, those signals reduce repeated checking, guessing, and reconsidering. A person may estimate the same number of minutes and still describe one wait as less frustrating or more acceptable. Felt duration, discomfort, and trust are connected, but they are not identical. Visible progress does not need to make 5 minutes feel like 3. It may simply stop those 5 minutes from feeling confusing or out of control. This is why waiting systems often try to create structure. A restaurant gives you a menu before your table is ready. A delivery app divides one journey into stages. A customer support system tells you how many people are ahead. At an airport, passengers follow signs and corridors before baggage claim. None of these signals necessarily makes the real process faster, but each one gives the wait visible shape. Consider a package marked only in transit for 3 days. The message does not tell you whether it left the warehouse, crossed the country, or was delayed. Now compare that with the same 3 days divided into stages: collected, sorted, transported, and out for delivery. The package does not move faster, but the wait now has landmarks. You can see what happened, what is happening, and what remains. It turns an empty interval into a sequence. And sequences are easier for the mind to understand than blank time. There is also a social side to waiting. A line that moves slowly but fairly is different from a line where people seem to enter from the side. The problem is no longer only speed. It is whether the system feels understandable and legitimate. If the order is clear, people can predict their turn. If the order is invisible, every movement by someone else can look like evidence that the system is ignoring them. This is one reason unexplained waiting can produce anger so quickly. The mind is not only tracking time, it is also judging whether the rules make sense. But progress indicators can also make waiting worse. Return to the bar from the beginning. It raced from 0 to 99% in a few seconds. You relaxed. The end appeared certain. Then it stopped. Now every second is compared with a finish that looked almost complete. The bar has not reduced uncertainty. It has created a precise expectation and then broken it. A countdown can do something similar. A reliable number can help you plan, but watching every second disappear can pull attention back toward time itself. So the lesson is not that every wait needs more animation, more numbers, or a brighter progress bar. A decorative spinner may show activity without giving useful information. What helps is honest evidence. What is happening? Where am I in the process? What can I reasonably expect next? These questions matter because waiting is often a moment when people have already surrendered control. In a hospital, you may not know why another patient was called first. At an airport, your bag moves through a system you cannot see. On a support line, silence gives no clue whether an answer is getting closer. In each case, the system knows more than the person waiting. When that gap stays invisible, even a moderate delay can feel careless or chaotic. When the system shares clear, believable information, the same delay can feel more manageable, even when it is not shorter. The principle also works on a personal level. If you cannot change the system, you can sometimes change what your attention is doing inside the wait. Reading a page, walking around, talking to someone, or completing a small task does not remove the minutes. It gives the mind events other than repeated checks of the clock. That does not mean distraction solves every kind of waiting. If the situation is important, uncertain, or emotionally charged, the mind may keep returning to it. But when the wait is ordinary, giving attention another job can reduce how often time becomes the main event. That is why two waits can occupy the same 10 minutes and still become different experiences. One contains movement, feedback, and a believable path forward. The other contains one unanswered question, asked again and again. A long wait is not always a shortage of speed. Sometimes it is a shortage of evidence. We do not only want the end to arrive, we want to feel that we are getting closer.